Well, hi, everybody. It's Lisa Copeland, and welcome to the Art of the Big Sell, where, as usual, I bring on the most amazing, fantastic guests, people that personally inspire me by all that they do in business. And my guest today is no different, Miss Katie Mayers, who is the founder and CEO of Katie Mayers Consulting. And she is one of the top consultants in the country, and I should say in the world, since you're a Canadian.
Yes.
It comes to consumer experience, consumer journey, and then, of course, nurturing the female consumer. Did I get it all in there, Katie?
Yeah, you got it all in. Great description. Thank you. Thank you, Lisa. It's such an honor to be on.
Well, good. Well, so first of all, tell everybody about you. I think you are so fantastic and you're so accomplished. Tell us a little bit about Katie. First of all, let's start with the fact that you live in Canada.
I do. I live in Canada, and I love that I get to travel the world, and I'm out in the U.S. and I get to go globally. I actually get on a plane to go to France tomorrow, which is super exciting. So a little bit about me. Oh my gosh, I've been known to be called an onion. There's many different layers, and I've got lots going on all the time. But I most importantly have 3 wonderful children, and they keep me super busy and super excited and humble and grounded. They are awesome, but then when it comes to business, it's been a whirlwind and a fantastic one. I started out in retail with the love of shoes, which unfortunately, but fortunately, that love has not gone away because I still collect them. And then I moved into specialty medical, where I designed Canada's first online educational platform for the dental industry, which was a lot of fun. During that time, got my master's in adult training development and really found my love for inspiring the minds of others and helping them to move into action and create positive, actionable change. And really that's what the turning point was for me. Went from there and started to build a smaller dental corporation. We grew from 6 clinics to 26 clinics by the time I left, and then was a COO of a dental consulting company. Now, people might wonder, well, why are you in automotive? I went out.
Well, but you know what? You're not just in automotive. That's what I was right about, like who your client list is. My goodness.
Yeah, so I've had the chance to work with just about everybody, and it's been amazing out here in Canada. And also in the United States, I work with an amazing company out there as well that has given me a ton of great experience in working with clients like, I'm just trying to think of clients that you would know right off the bat, but Celebrity Cruises. Yeah, Celebrity Cruises is one of them. Actually, I've just now taken on a big role with Celebrity, which is extremely excited and exciting in my career, and I'm flying out to France to board their newest ship. And so that role is, it's a big one, and I feel blessed and honored to be a part of Celebrity and their revolution. And so that's one of the biggest ones that I get to work with, which is fantastic.
Well, it's so exciting. And Katie, one of the reasons, you and I met a couple years ago, and one of the reasons that, I'm so interested in you is because you really show companies how to build a movement. The art of the big sell is about, stop selling and start mobilizing.
Yes.
And you're doing that in a big way with these major corporations. So tell us, what is the movement that you're helping to create within the travel industry with Celebrity Cruises? Because they're very lucky to have you.
Yeah, so with Celebrity, we're working on the guest experience, which is really about providing that interaction for the guests so they can have an experience that lives up to their expectations. And that's really what I do with all organizations. So whether it's travel, whether it's auto, whether it's a small company, like I'm working with a small company out in Hamilton here, which is just the outskirts of the GTA of Toronto. And so it doesn't matter what company, what size, it's about going from transaction to interaction. It's about taking process and moving it into practice and actually making something happen. So it's creating that momentum, but then not stopping, because that's what a lot of organizations do. They create the program, they discover they need a need, and they need to close a delivery gap, but then they stop. And what I do is I go in and I develop the leadership team. I strengthen the core of the organization, their systems, their processes, and their people, so that the output is an amazing experience for their customers. So it's really...
And
Sorry.
Katie, do you find that so many companies, not none of the current companies you're speaking of, but so many companies bring in someone like you because it's a knee-jerk reaction, right? Something happened, their sales have declined, and you and I've talked about this in the past, versus making it standard operating procedure, that these processes
Yes.
that you're putting in place, that they become a permanent part of the culture, not a, oh my God, something bad's happened, so now we're going to jump in, right? And bring in Katie and her team, and we're going to fix it. And so, would you speak to that?
Yeah, so a lot of organizations will do that, and actually, some of those organizations, my company will opt out of actually partnering with. And the reason why is because if you're not ready for change, then we're both wasting my time and their money, and it's not worth it. So what a lot of consultants do is they actually feed on organizations that want that to happen, because they want to have them see a little bit of a rise, and then they want to see them drop. But then what those organizations are going to attribute their rise to is that consultant. And then they're going to hire that consultant back. And then they're going to see a little bit of a rise, but they're not going to operationalize it. Then they're going to see a drop. And I'm not in the business to see this up and down movement. I'm in the business to, as I said, actually make change happen. And I want to see an incline like this. I want to be able to work with organizations that never have to hire me again. That is where I want to get to. So a lot of organizations will do that knee-jerk reaction. We need to do something. We need to stimulate numbers. But because they're going after the number and they're not actually fixated on how to improve the number,
right,
the success is really minimal.
Right. And so, we look at some of the greatest companies around the world, Tom Shoes, Whole Foods, Apple, and Harley Davidson, and they have done what they've done by building a culture, by building a movement, by not accepting everybody as their customer.
Mm-hmm.
You don't see Tom's or Apple or Whole Foods or anybody. I mean, you don't see them go on sale. They stay very true to their tribe, to their core, to their brand ambassadors.
Yeah.
Can you speak to that on what that does for the culture of those organizations? Because not only are they sustainable in good and bad times, but their work culture is amazing. And their numbers, if you go look on the stock exchange, they're all making money. How does that all tie together?
So culture is key. Your happiest customer is only as happy as your happiest employee. So culture is absolutely everything. For me, and that's why my methodology, it's called the core methodology. If we don't, for example, if you were to entertain and engage a personal trainer, the first place that personal trainer is going to ask you to strengthen is your core. Mm-hmm. Right? Because without a strong core, you're going to pull a muscle, you're going to be, on bed rest, you're not going to be able to get the results that you want. The hardest and strongest portion of a fruit, let's take an avocado or a peach, is the core. And the same goes for business. The people are the core of everybody's business. It doesn't matter what you do, what service you have. And if you don't have a culture of that is about people experiences and is about making their people happy, you'll never have a culture to make your customers happy. It's all interlocked. And that culture, when you build it and you protect it and you have the values and you have your purpose and your mission and your vision and you've got your standards in place, it is much easier at that point to either hire or fire a customer or to hire or fire an employee that doesn't fit within that brand. And then you end up creating brand evangelists. And that's where it starts to snowball.
And I love that. But I know there's people out here where, and Katie, they're not the boss, right? And they work for somebody who's not a good boss. I think we've all been in that situation, right? Where they're not good leaders. Mm-hmm. They may be good business people, but they're not good leaders. They're not inspirational. In fact, they're bullies. And that's something that I think you and I have aligned on ever since we met, is, really trying to eradicate the bullies from the automotive industry. Yeah. And so what does somebody out there do who fundamentally likes their job, likes their clients, but they work for a bully? They work in a toxic environment. What advice? Because I absolutely consider you a subject matter expert on this. What advice would you give the person watching this show right now who says, I love what she's saying, but what do I do?
Honestly, go find a place that aligns with your values. because if somebody doesn't align with your values, it's never going to be the workplace you want. And usually it's really hard to change somebody unless they're open and willing to change. So I would say take control of your life and find an employer, a leader, not a boss, that aligns with your values so that you can love what you do and flourish and be happy with what you do every day.
And okay, so for everybody out there, again, will you give me your definition of a leader and your definition of a boss?
Oh gosh.
So obviously you are a leader of leaders and you train leaders, not bosses. Am I right?
Correct. So bosses are do this, do that. They tell you what to do. They're dictators. And they don't often walk the talk. They they know what they want and they expect everybody to kind of come into play. A boss also is somebody, so I have this quote that I like to teach, and it's that a leader without followers is just somebody taking a walk. And so a boss is somebody that has no followers, that can't inspire a following and just is taking a walk all by themselves.
I love that. A leader is, say that again one more time.
Yeah, so a leader without followers is someone taking a walk.
Oh.
So that is a boss. Is somebody that's all by themselves, singing their own song, humming their own tune, and walking to the beat of their own drum. A leader inspires a following, inspires people who want to know more, do more, be better, and want to actually have that leader's vision come to life. So a leader is somebody that can inspire that following. So it's not them all by themselves, it's them with a team of people.
Right. And then, but what about that boss who has a leadership team around them and they manage by intimidation? You know, it isn't, you know, they follow because they have a good job. It's a high paying job, whatever. But that boss sitting in that front seat is an absolute bully. Would you give the same advice to the inner circle tribe to move on, move out?
Either move on, move out, or learn to manage up. And so learn to figure out, you know, what it is that makes that person tick, that you can get the best out of that person, meet that person where they're at, and actually become a leader yourself, but be a leader for your leader. And it's amazing. A lot of leaders that become bosses are only because that's all they know. And so if you could actually be a person or a leader for that top executive, a lot can change. But it would be either, listen, if they're not aligned with your values, you're sitting here, it's your choice, it's in your, you know, you're choosing to be here. Right. But if you want to try to make a difference, then actually manage up and help them become better leaders.
And do corporations, Katie, do they bring you in? Like, have you ever had a bad boss? Let's just call it that. I think there was a movie called that. Have you ever had a bad boss call you in and say, I know I'm a bad boss, help?
No, but I've identified them. I've identified them and gently told them. So, I mean, I have an organization I'm working with right now where I have accountability calls with the CEO and the president, because he's a boss, he's not a leader. And his leaders they need to learn, but he's the reason they're handcuffed. So now I have weekly executive coaching calls with him. So, but it takes a lot to have, you have to have the cojones to be able to stand in front of somebody and say, listen, you know, you're the missing link, and we need to be able to work on your leadership so that your leaders can flourish. So that's what I mean by managing up.
No, I think that is such great advice, because I do think people struggle with that, you know, and they get comfortable. So then they end up going to work every day and they don't love what they do, and they don't love who they do it with. Yeah. And at one point, is life too short? Yeah. What are your feelings about these companies that build a movement? You know, that they're out there and they are leading the conversations with, you know, the customer revolution, the customer journey. I mean, obviously they are people that are singing, but you know, when did you get passionate about helping companies start to make that paradigm shift from being them-centered to being much more consumer-centered?
I got passionate about it when I started job hopping, and I started to realize I had to look at myself and say, well, there can't be something wrong with all these organizations. I had to look at my own values, and there was something missing. But then when I was able to step out and about 30,000 feet in the air, I took a look and said, okay, you know what? I can help multiple organizations get where they are versus being in just one. Because when I went from one to one, all within 3 years, 3 jobs within 3 years, I said to myself, there's something fundamentally wrong with either my values or what organizations are doing today. And that's what they are. They're them-centered versus consumer and people-centered. And so that was my kind of, you know, flick of the switch, where it was that passion that turned on to help multiple organizations do the best that they can.
You know, so we have a question out there, Katie, from Jill Wall. She says, do you find bosses like that are open to change? I think we might have just talked about that, you know, I mean, but are they? I mean, you know, can you really change an old dog and teach them new tricks? Or do you see that they're like, okay, I'll try this, and then, you know, they're back to their old tricks within 30 days. I mean, that's what I've always seen. But
yeah, it's possible. It is definitely possible. It's not easy. And it's not a Band-Aid solution. So it's not like, oh, hey, I'm just going to patch it up. I'm going to motivate you and inspire you and hope for the best. It takes time, and it takes commitment, and it takes a lot of reminding. I mean, I always like to say to my leaders that I'm training, I say, if you're not sick of your voice by the time you leave for the day, you haven't talked enough, you haven't followed up enough, you haven't made enough movement. You should not want to hear your own voice. So that's my job. My job is to get sick of my own voice so that I can help bosses actually see that change. It's totally possible, but it takes time, lots of time.
And so, you know, I know that you're very, very passionate, and you're very well studied and accomplished when it comes to the female market, you know, the female consumer, and really expanding that consumer journey.
Yeah.
For and elevating the consumer journey. I think elevating is the right word. Elevating the consumer journey for female consumers. The number one influencer in the world, ladies and gentlemen.
$28 trillion. We control $28 trillion of worldwide spending. Like, we are the world's economy. Yes.
And what is because I love that, you know, you're in so many different verticals, right? What is your overall opinion of the treatment of the number one consumer and influencer in the world? Kind of a loaded question, but
it's a loaded question. And do you have all day? No, it is really.
Alphabetize it for me, Katie. Alphabetize it.
You know what? With the exception of maybe retail shopping and shoe shopping, outside of those female-dominated industries where you actually get a lot of females working in them, the industries out there are completely oblivious to what the female consumer needs or wants, and that's terrible, because when you don't live up to expectations that a female wants, all you get is disappointment. And when you have disappointed customers, you end up having an influence of 3 or 4 generations in a household that you're losing. And then you also have lack of trust, you have loss of loyalty, and loss of sales. So I honestly, in a nutshell, think that in majority of industries, finance, automotive, travel.
Do you see it in healthcare? Because, you know, I are, you know, the primary decision makers in healthcare.
93%. We make 93% of the decisions, and we purchase 93% of over-the-counter pharmaceutical purchases.
I bet you that we book 93% of the cruises on celebrity cruises also, don't we?
Probably. No, in travel, it's 70%. Women influence 70% of those purchase decisions. But yeah, it's I think it's crazy that we haven't figured it out yet.
And so, you know, what advice would you give to somebody out there who owns a business, who works in a business? How can they, and you know, let's just say that they don't own it, but you know, but they're looking to elevate the consumer experience, which in my mind, if you want to elevate the consumer experience, you start with elevating the female experience, and she's the number one influencer. Because I think if you set the bar here for women, I think the guys are just going to be happy, right? They're going to be
I wholeheartedly agree.
Out there, I promise, but it's true. You know, we have higher expectations.
Yeah. The number one advice I can give is build relationships. So I did an independent study, and I surveyed female consumers that purchased a car within the last 1 to 2 years. And 87% of them visited a dealership with a male because they didn't want to come by themselves. 100% of those consumers said that the man was greeted first, which is crazy. So if you want to talk about low-hanging fruit, just greet the female consumer and make her feel like an equal. But the biggest thing is relationships. 69% of the females said that the sales associate didn't actually get to know her, didn't create a relationship. That's still same 69% said, I don't trust them. So trust, we all know, leads to purchases, leads to loyalty. So if we don't create those relationships, you can forget about it. So I would say the number one thing is take the time to create the relationship. That is the biggest thing that females want. They know what they want when they come in. They know how much they want to spend on it, but all they want is to create a relationship. So that's what we need to do.
And women, women don't gossip. They advertise. And I like to say that, when it comes to social media, it's like she is going to talk about on her social media platforms, if she had a great experience, which is fantastic, she can be your biggest influencer or your biggest nightmare. One of the two.
100%. Yeah, 100%.
Women don't gossip, they advertise. And they're going to advertise one of two ways for you, good or bad. And, you're an influencer, Katie, I'm an influencer. And I'll tell you, when I have a great brand experience, I'm on Twitter about it. I'm on Facebook. Like, you got to get down here. When I don't like somebody or I don't like their business, I'm pretty influential on stopping people doing business. And you are too. Yes, as are many, many women out there. And so what do you think it is? I mean, you're in Canada, US. I mean, it's the same problem around the world. Do you agree it's universal? Or do you think it's
universal? Yeah, it's universal.
Like North American, I mean, is it, what do you see in Europe? I mean, do you?
It's global. It's global.
It is global. Okay. So it's a global problem that women are underserved. Consumers. And, so what do you think is causing the paradigm shift now? Why do you think companies are finally in the year 2018? I mean, in the US, we haven't even had a woman president yet, right? I think every other country in the world just about, and, I'm not sure if you all have had a prime minister as a woman or not, but, I mean, we haven't done that. And so what do you think has finally made these corporations wake up and go, ding, 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 we need Katie?
Yeah, you know what? I think it's just that women are starting to become louder and more vocal, and I honestly can attribute to the millennial women are starting to hold their ground. So the next few generations of women to come are all about having equality, and they're all about having a seat at the table, and they're not afraid to ask for it. So I think that's what's happening is, the female, I love it. The future is female. I love it.
It's on my desk, everybody. You don't see it typically, but it is.
It's so true. And so that's what it is that women are starting to become more vocal.
Okay, it looks like hopefully Katie did not just freeze up, because she is absolutely dynamite with the information that she gives. I'm hoping she can come back on, everybody, because I do think we're still live. But just, I want all of you out there to think about it. When you're out and you're trying to change the game in your business, you want to increase sales, you want to increase influence, you want to increase your customer base, you want to increase your referral base, build a brand movement, make a commitment to an excellent customer journey, to excellence in serving female consumers. Yeah, Ken's saying she's frozen. I see that, and I'm still live. So, I mean, Katie is absolutely one of the top brand experts in the world when it comes to consumer journey, when it comes to how to expand your markets into authentically, can I say this 100 times, to authentically market to female consumers. I mean, paint it pink and think women will come is not a good strategy. In fact, I wanted to name the book, The Art of the Big Sell, Pink is Not a Strategy, because it's not a strategy, right? It's authentically honoring and valuing the female consumers. So I want to tell you guys how to get a hold of Katie and follow her on social media. She's absolutely a dynamo. She's Katie Mayers Consulting, but her website is katiemayers.com. And Ken, if you'll put that up for me, that would be absolutely yep, she's out. Darn it. That would be absolutely fantastic. And if you're a business owner, or if you're just in business, the number one piece of advice. Okay, Katie's back. I was doing.
We have rain here. And
hello, Katie. Oh, God, you are on a roll.
Sorry.
Jump back in.
I apologize.
No, I think it's this Canada US thing that's going on right now.
Something's going on. I apologize.
All right. Well, so I'm going to let you pick up where you left off, my friend.
Yes, as you said, the future is female. And I think that the major difference and the big change that's happening right now and why companies are shifting is because women are now stepping up to the plate, and it's the younger generation. They're not afraid to ask for what they want. They're not afraid to vocalize one of the words I hate using is the word just, because a lot of females use the word just. It's like they're apologizing before they even ask for what they want. And I found that millennials, they don't do that. They don't apologize. They just go for it. They're, crushing mediocrity, like you say. You're unapologetically fierce, and that's the movement that's happening.
They are. And, there's a new book out. I haven't read it yet, but I've been hearing about it I know my daughter's reading it. I know my dear friend Renee Bangelsdorf has just read it, and it's Girl Wash Your Face.
Oh, no.
Oh, it's like a New York Times bestseller, but it really is, she's younger and she's running a company and she's got a blog and she's an influencer. She's got 3 kids. She kind of reminds me of you, Katie. She's just, and she doesn't take no for an answer. I mean, I look at you and I follow you, and you've got young kids and you're doing a beautiful job of raising them. You're changing the face of corporations by changing the consumer experience, and you're holding them accountable. It's like, whether you're a man or a woman, if the best way to punish bad behavior in a business is to walk out and not spend money with them.
Yeah.
You go find somebody to spend money with. And I think, and it's something I talk about in the Art of the Big Sell. God, you inspire me, Katie. I'm like, boom, boom, boom. But something I talk about in the Art of the Big Sell, it's like, I think today's consumer is not near as concerned about price as they are about the journey and the experience. So we can be more profitable as businesses, charge a fair price, and give an excellent consumer experience.
See, I agree. So I equate, in a lot of my keynotes, I'll open up by asking, do you remember the first time you fell in love? And usually it arouses a little bit of reaction. But that feeling of butterflies in your stomach, or sweaty palms, or nervousness, anxiousness, excitement, and then all the release of those hormones. So serotonin, dopamine, oxytocin, all of those hormones and all of those feelings are actually the same feelings and hormones that women and people have when they're journeying through the experience with a company. So the ultimate goal is to help people fall in love with your brand. And if you can help them fall in love with your brand and actually experience those feelings, then you win every single time.
And all of a sudden now, right, Katie? I mean, you're not in a price war, whether you're a car dealer, real estate, I don't care what it is. If you're a Nordstrom, if you're a retailer, you're not in a price war with your competitor. If I think companies should be in a war for I'm going to say her affection, her allegiance, her friends, her influence, her tribe. I know it happens to you, and it happens to me all the time. People say, Lisa, will you come try us out? Will you do business with us? Because we know if you're happy with us, you're going to bring us an army of people that will do business with us also.
Yeah.
And I know you see that.
Well, and that's what it is. You are in a war against creating a relationship, earning trust, and then ultimately their loyalty and referrals. And if you can create that relationship and create the trust, then you will have that loyalty. It doesn't matter how much you spend. Or how much you charge, or how much she spends. It's all about the way she or he feels about the brand and the experience, because we make decisions using our limbic brain. The limbic brain is the part of the brain that controls decision making. It also controls your emotions and your memory. It's like essentially the biggest hub of our brain. And we don't make decisions off of facts and figures, because we can look that all up online now. We can research and see everything that we want. We must create the relationship in order for her or him to say yes to the sale.
And what is that disconnect? You think back, and you think back to the 20s and the 30s with retailers, right? And you walked in, and they knew your name, and and even in the big cities, in New York City, you could walk into Macy's, and if you were a regular customer there, it was great service, airline, great service. I mean, everything was so service based. Katie, with all of your travel and your studies, when do you think it went cattywomp? Do you think it's because people got out of the service business because of profitability or lack of profitability, or they just got greedy?
I think they stayed in the service business. And so I think there's a big difference between service and experience. And I think before they might have been creating an experience, because that's what they were after. But to your point of greediness, people started chasing the number. They wanted more. And instead of figuring out how to get to that number and realizing that the basics of creating relationships is how they were seeing that growth, they got greedy and created everything around the number, the metric, the top line revenue, how many customers they've got coming through the door, their conversion rate, whatever metric they put around it. And they stopped teaching their people how to get to that number. But I think there's a big difference between service and experience. Service is a transaction. It's here it is, give me your money, we swap. An experience is when you actually touch on the senses. It's when you actually create that feeling of falling in love through the journey that the consumer takes with your brand. So I think we need to go from transaction to interaction and actually start creating an experience and go back to basics. Like, be human.
Be human. I love it. And and that's hard to do in this world of technology, right?
Yes.
I mean, I walk in the store now and everyone's on their phones and they're doing, I'm like, hello, I'm in the building, right? I have money, I can shop.
Yeah.
Who would you say is the best retailer that you've researched in today? Just give a shout out for somebody who does it right. And then,
I have so many. But I'm loyal to a few. So one would be Starbucks. I'm a Starbucks junkie. I mean, I know that no matter where in the world I go, I'm going to get my grande, non-fat, bone-dry cappuccino with 1 raw sugar, and it's going to be made just the way I like it, and I'm going to get called by name, and it doesn't matter where I go. Amazon is another one. So if we go from kind of brick and mortar in-person experience, I would definitely say Starbucks, and then Amazon from a technical standpoint, I mean, they top it all. Amazon is easy to do business with.
But I will tell you, I mean, the thing I'm picking up from what you just said about those retailers, just kind of running it through my head, the common thread for me at least is consistency. You're going to have a consistent experience. I mean, when I'm on Amazon Prime, I know exactly how it's going to go down. I know how quick, I mean, whatever, I walk into Starbucks, it's going to be the same greeting. They're going to write my name on the cup. They're going to call me by name, all of the above.
Yeah.
What are the 3 pieces of advice as we wrap up here that you would give somebody out there? Because I know you charge a lot of money for what you do. What are the 3 pieces of advice that whether you're in sales with that company or you own the company, that they could do immediately to up the customer journey or up the customer experience, which in turn will up the bottom line?
So one is, people matter, culture matters. The experience you give your people will dictate the experience your customers receive. So focus on your people and your culture. That's number one, especially in automotive. If you do not have a culture where women want to work for you, you are not having a culture where women want to shop with you. So that's number one.
Boom. All you auto people out there, do you hear that? They don't want to work for you. If women don't want to work for you, then women won't want to shop with you.
Yes. So that's number one. Number 2 would be flipping the lens. So whether it's the consumer journey through an employer, the experience and the journey through the employee eyes, or through a male's consumer eyes or a female's consumer eyes, you've got to be able to flip the lens and see it through their eyes. So Bain & Company did this study where they surveyed 365 organizations, and they asked them, do you provide superior service? And they said, yes, we do. But then they went and surveyed 3,000 of their customers, and only 8% of their customers felt they received superior service. So the only way we're going to create and close that gap and create an experience for the customer is to live by the platinum rule, and that is to treat others the way they need or want to be treated. So flipping that lens and taking the journey through your customer's eyes, not through your own. So that is number 2. Number 3, and you hit the nail on the head there, Lisa, with consistency. I have a little saying, every customer, every time. Every customer, every time. You've got to get your teams to chant that. Every customer, every time. Your 5 p.m. customer interaction has to look just as great as your first one at 9 a.m. or maybe after a few coffees anyways. But every customer, every time.
And I'm going to tell you, to me, that is like the big takeaway.
Yeah.
If nothing else, that, we have so many people on this right now. If nothing else, every customer, every time. And that would go into every industry, whether it's my friend Renee Bangelsdorf, who sells jets to, I see Subaru Steve on there who sells Subarus. Every customer, every time.
Yep. Simple.
And that is something that you would think everybody could take on. And so every single salesperson in the world or customer facing person, if you could just keep that in your head, every customer, every time, a consistent experience, meaning if you're having a bad day, do not take it out on your customer.
Exactly.
You're better off going home than you are being customer facing when you're having a bad day. Do you agree with that?
I totally agree. I totally agree. We can't show frustration publicly. That's we are on stage. And that's why Disney does so well, is that their cast members are on stage all the time until they go underground into their little area where they can smoke cigarettes and spit on the floor and do what they need to do because they're human. But they do it
costume because it's 100 degrees on that pavement. Yep.
Exactly. But they do it where nobody can see it. And as soon as the princesses come out, they're on stage. And that's what customer experience is. That's what being in the customer experience industry is you are on stage and you're there for them, and you have to put your stuff behind. You have to drop it and leave backstage and be on stage.
So Katie, as we wrap, how can people get a hold of you? And more importantly, how can they work with you?
Yeah, for sure. So, you can find me on all social channels, Instagram, Katie Mares, on Twitter, at Katie Mares _1, on LinkedIn, Katie Mares, as well as Facebook. I have a personal page, which please join me on my journey with my 3 crazy kids at Katie Mares. And then I also have a business page, Katie Mares Consulting. But honestly, email me, drop me a direct message or email me, katie@katiemares.com. And I'm happy to answer questions and or do an assessment, a one-on-one assessment to figure out, where you are and how maybe I can help you.
Oh, Katie, that is awesome. As usual, you bring a tremendous amount of value.
Thank you.
Yeah. And, every person, every customer, every time, or every person, every time.
See, it depends. No, but every customer, every time, if you're thinking about the forward-facing customer. But in a lot of the organizations, we talk about people experiences. So every person, every time is also great if you're changing up your culture.
Right. I was going to say yes for your internal customers, right? Internal customers, your culture, and then your external, of course, are the ones how you pay your bills.
Exactly.
Every customer, every time. Katie, as usual, it's a sincere joy to catch up with you. You're an absolute expert and a leading authority when it comes to consumer journey and women consumers. So I would recommend that all of you follow Katie. And I guess what I'm going to say goodbye for now, eh?
Yeah. I'll talk to A. I love it. I
love all my Canada sisters. I love all my Canadian sisters.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for having me, Lisa. This was amazing.
Thank you, Katie.
Thank you. Take care. Bye.
Bye.